Our first Bobcast of March 2021 is here, and we're kicking things off with head men's lacrosse coach Steve Gartelman. Coach, you're playing for the first time in 352 days after your season in 2020 was cut short by that pandemic, and starting off with a pretty big win for you guys over Walsh University, an 18-3 victory. What was it like getting back on the field and seeing the guys play their hearts out and just having lacrosse back at Frostburg State?
It was, everything that we've been waiting for, 300 plus days. We even talked to the guys in the locker room about it just to kind of bring that perspective back. But it was really, in my opinion, healthy. We needed this. We needed to get back out there and play together and have something we were working towards, show the value of our efforts. So this whole, working our tails off sort of thing for those 350 some odd days really showed, the payoff there. These guys didn't just take that time to not train, not do anything. They've been working on their academics, they've been working on their life and balance, but also staying ready for when the chance came back. I think we showed that our guys wanted this and came out with all the energy in the world. And the best part about it was, in my opinion, us being able to play multiple guys, not just the usual guys. And we starting to get deeper into the roster, even fairly early in the game. And as we're running those guys out, the usual guys out there are hooting and hollering for those guys getting their first reps and first goals. So healthy is the word I think it was. We all needed this. And then just the dynamic of the team, really, they were supporting each other and loving each other, being out there for the first time in so long. So it was really something we needed, and we had a lot of fun.
And so you talked about that camaraderie, and a lot of your roster is back. I'd say about 95% of last year comes back this year. A lot of the graduate students are staying on. So how important has that been, just in terms of team bonding and playing together as a team, of having so many people back where you don't have to replace a lot?
Yeah, it's a huge help, especially in this season. Last year, we felt like we had something special starting up in the spring season when we started, and everything changed, obviously, with the world. So that's outside of our control. But it's hard to bottle that special feeling. It's hard to kind of find that magic that we had going last year. So this year was, a kind of experiment. When we get everybody back, we think on paper it should just click just like that. But we're going through, the COVID pandemic, where there's different protocols, there's different things. We're, working in practices in very different ways than we normally do. So there's a concern there that we're not going to be able to get that chemistry and that camaraderie that we're used to. We talked to the guys about finding ways to connect differently, maybe more FaceTimes, maybe more abilities to, have a group text going and have some fun in that stuff. So the guys have really bought into trying to see this as, a slightly different season, but the exact same mindset of us trying to bond together. And the leadership, the fact we bring back so many of those guys, the leadership on this team is outstanding, where we do have 4 captains and a handful of our leadership council members, but there might be 51 leaders on this team and 51 followers. We have 51 guys on the team, and they all kind of find their place, when to step up, when to lead, when to follow. And that helps us. We're working with 2 coaches this year. Coach Jones graduated, and we weren't able to bring in a new GA this year because of obvious reasons. So we're making it work, and the guys, as leaders and as a mature group of guys, they kind of check and balance themselves also. Sometimes as we're getting ready to coach somebody up, there's a senior or junior coming by and saying, hey, man, you got to run to that pass. You got to get your hands up. Communicate with me, and it's really a healthy dynamic. So we're getting the chemistry more by helping each other versus having fun with each other because of necessity. I think that's going a long way for us to be an IQ-driven, really smart, talented lacrosse team. So the chemistry's coming. It's not exactly last year, but the way these guys are going about their business, working hard, helping each other out, supporting each other, brings it back to that healthy environment where the guys are pumped to see somebody get out there and get their first goal, their first ground ball, and that's where we build the trust and chemistry. So it's slowly coming, but in a very different fashion.
And it certainly helps with an 18-3, a pretty big victory in your first game. And we talked a little bit on Saturday after the game. You and I, we were out and about, and we discussed the game a little bit. And you were a little bit surprised that they came out in a zone defense. And you guys, as we mentioned, we haven't practiced the zone for an entire year at all. So, how did your guys handle going out where they weren't prepared for what they were running, and they just kind of ran out, and Paul scored a couple goals right away, and you guys just went off from there?
The biggest thing we talked about all of this preseason was trusting yourself and trusting your teammates, knowing that if you trust yourself, they're going to balance off of you, and know that they know what they're supposed to do in certain elements. So we get out there in the first quarter, and we haven't prepared for a zone. How can you trust yourself and your teammates when we've never talked about this? But as a coaching staff, we've talked briefly throughout the preseason as we install our man upsets that we're playing against a 5-man zone. A 6-man zone is the same thing, just a little bit extra, less space. So we ran some of our man up, movements and concepts that got us, settled into the zone a little bit. But really, it was just the guys trusting what we do in our even strength offense, that man-to-man offense, and just taking it down a notch, recognizing that you don't just run crazy in the zone and dodge on people, you end up running into trouble. You kind of feel it out, and you prod and move and prod and move. And that's what we did in that first quarter, where we came out thinking it was man-to-man. Paul makes a nice roll move on our approach and scores the second goal of the game, I believe it was, in transition. And then as we settle into zone, we start working our man-up stuff, and the guys just talked through it. And that was where, again, it keeps coming back to really healthy. Nobody was scrambled. Nobody was stressed. Nobody was, Coach, we never practiced this. What are we going to do? It was, hey, they're in zone, Coach. Where do you want to carry from? Where do you want to initiate from? How do we want to do this? And just very poised, very calm, very, direct in how they wanted to manipulate that zone. And that's where I think our guys helping coaching each other up, and the way we go out of practice and play a lot lets these guys kind of be able to grow through that moment. And I'm not going to say that's how I want to go through every game, not being prepared for zones in that fashion. But we felt prepared enough that we can go out against an early season zone. May not have been an 18-3 game in my mind. If we saw a zone in my mind, I thought it would have been a slower, closer game. But our guys did a great job, like we said, communicating, recognizing what sets work within the plays we do have, and just applying them to a six-man zone. So I was very proud of them to be poised and patient and all that, and just talk with us and work it out.
Yeah, and two guys that were great against that zone, and they have what looked like, you said your team chemistry might not be exactly there, but Mike Sipes and Paul Rupert both, they looked like they were on the same wavelength that entire first half, where they both were in for a lot of the game. And Paul had 5 goals. I think Mike had a goal and 2 assists for him. And, what does it mean to have those two guys who are both graduate students now? They've been together for, this will now be their 5th year. And for them to just run the offense, and they know kind of, you probably don't even have to speak to them on the field, and they'll just go and they'll do their thing.
Yeah, it's really a luxury. For us to have as coaches. A lot of times they make us look good. We might call a play and it doesn't work out, and then all of a sudden Paul shakes somebody, or Mike makes a great feed, or throws a fake and gets somebody to look away. So those guys are outstanding in their skill and the way they go about business, but also they have a good, heads and tails to them. They really love each other, playing with each other. Obviously, one's righty, one's lefty, but Paul is kind of the quiet assassin, not as much of a chatterbox, but he can make a lot of things happen and is a great leader in his own right. Mike is the quarterback, the voice. He knows how to, direct and communicate and kind of manipulate the offense to help things go along. So those two guys are really like an OC and a quarterback coach or something, where one's maybe a little more vocal and one's a little bit more hands-on, but they're just two incredible leaders for us to know that, A, we've got a guy that we can go to and they can create something for us. But also, at halftime, Mike Sipes was talking about how we want to set our picks and some of the offensive movements and some coaching details that we were going to get to, and he beat us to the punch. So, it's really a luxury to have these wise guys out there that are experienced playing, showing these guys how to do it with their actions, and then also picking them up and trying to teach them how to do it with their words. So those two guys have been outstanding to help us look good, as I said, where they can put the ball in the net, and no matter what I call, sometimes they take over and make a play. But they're just poise is really contagious among the team, where we've got Joey Boros, who's a first-time starter for us. He's a transfer, came in last year, got some runs, but really starting to get comfortable, and just brings a poise to where Joey can be him, those guys can be themselves, and the chemistry within that first unit has been really, really strong. And I think it comes from how Mike and Paul play off each other, and they have a good balance.
And so there's, on that offensive side, and clearly 18 goals, something you're surely happy with, the most you scored in any game last season besides the Alderson Broadus game. I want to focus on the defense as well, because, and we discussed this a little bit as well, but I've informed you it's the least amount of goals that you've allowed since an April game in 2018 against Wesley, where that one was much lower scoring. It was only 9-2, but still, just to allow 3 goals, 2 guys that came up for me, and Colson Gregory and Garrett Colvin, both with 4 caused turnovers. Gregory, a senior, and Colvin, a graduate student. But, those 2 guys really stood out. But the entire defense, they just played well as a unit so well that entire game. And what did you see on your end from those guys, with Jack Marks, who's one of the best goalkeepers in this league? He only had to make 5 saves.
Yeah, it's a good day for a goalie. It's not the day you want necessarily as goalie. Goalies want to get 10 saves. They want to do their job. They want to contribute. But Jack is a vocal leader. He's a big part of, as we build our game plan, what we want to do defensively, so that he can see the shots that he's comfortable with. So all week was a great job for these guys of being a part of our game plan build. We want to make sure that as coaches, we're not just saying, do this and be quiet. It's, here's what we think might work. What do you guys think? Because they have to buy into it eventually, and they have to run it. My belief as a coach is that coaches win practices, players win games. And we have to teach them throughout the week to win that practice as a coach. If we don't teach them, they can't win a game. So that back and forth that we've had in practice really helped us put a great game plan together. We did a lot of film work with the coaching staff to bring these guys our ideas. They talked about some stuff. We repped it out like crazy to the point where, some of the guys were like, is this enough, coach? Obviously, now they realize we checked all the boxes we need to. But they were all part of it. We tried a few different rotation packages, a few different matchups. Coach, I like this because I'm not crazy about this because. And as we go through it, we figure out what we believe in the most. And that's all it takes for a defense to be successful, is to have 6 or 7 guys collectively moving. And if that's the case, we're in business. So that's what they did, is helped us build the right game plan, really bought into it, and then repeatedly they were able to execute. Early on, one of the things we talk about is starting hot and staying hot. In the past, we've had maybe a slow start in the first, even more so a slow start in the third, and those were our best quarters in this game. So I think that goes to show the guys buying into it, being able to be repetitive in how they go about their business. And that's defense, where it's reacting to the ball, but you have to be able to be repeatable so you can do it multiple times. And the only reason we score 18 goals is because the defense makes the stops they do and gives us so many extra possessions. We had 59 shots or 52 shots, something along that range. That's because they keep feeding us the ball. The ride was great. Defense was great. Face-offs were competitive. So we just kept feeding the offense. And when you score a lot like that, it sometimes doesn't show how well the defense did, but that's how you connect both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about that 10-man ride there that you talked about. And you had a practice about a week ago, and I was up in the press box with Matt. We were going through some things, and I saw you guys practicing that, of your offensemen, your attackmen trying to press the other team back. And one that I remember specifically was Austin Sipes, stood right in front of the goalkeeper, reached his stick up and deflected it down. I believe it was Gavin Chattal that picked up the loose piece and threw it right in. So, how have you guys prepared for that to make that work so well? Because even though it didn't cause a lot of turnovers, it didn't really do much throughout the majority of the game. It did happen a few times, and it really caused Walsh to panic a lot of times, even if it didn't, result in an immediate turnover for you guys.
Yeah, the biggest thing we talk about in our ride is effect. While it may not cause turnovers, we want them to clear the ball in the minimum or the maximum amount of time. So now they feel a little revved up. They're like, oh, we just got the clear, and they're kind of huffing and puffing. Maybe they had to run 20 yards to do it or throw a 50-yard pass. We want to try and speed them up in ways that they're not comfortable in general, not just Walsh, but in general against our ride. And we'll do it in different ways against different teams. But the turnover is a goal, but it's all about trying to speed them up. And I think we had, over 30 turnovers total for the opposing side, where we didn't cause 30 turnovers, but what we did do was make them play in a speed or mindset that wasn't comfortable. So our attack, we give them freedom to be, as we say, Tasmanian devils, just fly around, cause havoc with a few guidelines, and then the backside is a little bit more structured. But it was awesome. We maybe got 2 or 3 failed clears from the ride itself as far as a turnover or a shot clear clock. But what we did get was now a tired offense that gets to play against our revved up defense. So that's what we preach, is that it's not just about causing turnovers, it's about collectively now attack. If we don't score, you can help the defense get you the ball back by what you do here. We do that 2, 3, 4 times a week. If we can do it every day, we will. With the way we're practicing, not always having full numbers, it's a little tougher, but we still do some stuff where we segment it and try and practice things. So it's our bread and butter. That took some time in my first couple of years to get that to be bought into, because it's a risk when you take the goalie out and pull some pressure up. But we want to do it risk versus reward. We never want to sacrifice our defensive end, but it's fun to rev this thing up, and I think the guys are really understanding how to play in space and how much fun it can be. So that's going to be a staple for us going forward. You can look forward to it.
Yeah, you guys were definitely motivated in that game. And so you go into this Saturday, you travel up to Ohio, take on Lake Erie and the Storm. And last year, a 15-14 thrilling back and forth. Momentum was going both ways the entire game and coming out the victors in overtime. So we'll wish you the best of luck on Saturday for your trip up to Ohio and for the rest of the season as well. We thank you for taking your time out of your day to be on with us.
Of course.
For the Bobcast.
Thank you for having me. We're looking forward to the next one.
Back here on the Bobcast, and this weekend, men's and women's swimming was in action at Notre Dame College up in South Euclid, Ohio. Here with head men's and swimming coach Bryan Christiansen. Coach, you had a pretty long trip up to Ohio this weekend. Your teams falling at Notre Dame, both the men's and the women's side. The women's at 165-73, the men 144-118. But What did you make of your team's overall performance? We were just talking a little bit about this off the air of you were really proud of your team despite not getting the results particularly that you wanted.
Yeah, well, Logan, thanks for having me, and hello to Bobcat Nation out there, and YouTube land or however way you might be listening to this. It was fun going up there. Like I went to school at Hiram College, not too far from Cleveland, and then prior to Frostburg, I spent really about 16 months at John Carroll University, which is like right down the road from Notre Dame. So it was crazy. We went off like the exit I used to go to like my old house and stuff, and I was telling my assistant, I live right down the road, a couple more blocks, and so I have a lot of fond memories of Cleveland, and I've done that trip many, many times up. It's like you take back roads in 219 to Somerset, and then you flip on the highways. It's crazy that it's about 3.5 hours away, but it's like 3 states, and like it's just weird to think about how close Maryland actually is to Ohio and Cleveland. But Cleveland's one of my all-time favorite cities. I was there. I missed LeBron winning by like a month. I moved literally like July 1st.
Wow.
But it's always fun. I loved being in that environment. I went to I did see LeBron's last regular season Cavs game, which he played for like 2 minutes because they were like resting him for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it was a Cavs Knicks game, and I think I went in full Knicks gear because I'm from New York. New York will beat Cleveland, to me. They did not win that game, but always fun being up there. It's nice to have that. You had a question. You're talking about wins. Yeah, it was. I think this was our best game of the year. It really was. It was amazing that our score was similar to like Davis and Elkins, but like just the attitude after the meet was so radically different because I think we lost to Davis and Elkins swimming like pretty terribly. We lost to Notre Dame swimming pretty good. I tallied up. We had like 41 season bests. We had it was like 8 or 9 personal, like lifetime personal bests. It's the ultimate test of like you talk about winning or losing. Like if we lose but we go down swinging, I mean that's not a bad feeling, right? If we lose and we are stumbling over ourselves and doing terrible, then like that's a meet you feel bad about. But this wasn't a meet that we'd feel bad about losing.
And certainly give credit to Notre Dame. They have a lot of strong swimmers, especially on their women's side, and a very impressive team up there. But credit to you guys, coming out swimming, even though you're not getting the results, your swimmers are still doing what's best for them, and it helps, I suppose, in a little bit. We talked, a couple weeks ago about being an individual sport, and within a team setting, we'll say, of being able to motivate yourself rather than, okay, well, in soccer we're down 5 goals, they might stop playing, but your swimmers, you still have motivation to continue and try to compete throughout the entire meet.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the women's team first. Not a single swimmer was able to get a win on the women's side, but a couple of pretty close races, and one that I really want to bring up is the 100 freestyle with Francesca Cuevas-Surratt finishing in 3rd place, but that top 3 was within 1/10 of a second.
Yeah.
Every swimmer between each other. She also swam in the 50 free, swam a pretty good time of 26.76. What did you make of Francesca's day in Notre Dame of how she swam?
Yeah, that was a tough loss for sure. She was leading the race and they kind of snuck up on her, but really evaluating her, it was a whole lot better. She was almost second faster than she was at Fairmont in the 100. She swum a much better race. I think we got to work on closing out those close races a little more, which is an issue that we've had with the team for a lot of this year. But she swum it so much better, and actually her back half was a lot better than Fairmont. So it's that zone where it's still not where we want to be, but like there's measured and significant improvement. So we just got to keep doing that improvement.
And another swimmer that, again, in a decently close race, but just couldn't get it done, and Kylie Heyne in a 100-yard breaststroke with a 1:14.44. Really impressive time for her as well in that one. And she ran in a couple of the relays that, again, weren't really there for them, but in terms of the team, but swam a good time for herself. What did you make of Callie's day as well?
Yeah, that was good. That was a tough one too. It's kind of I think the breaststroke for Notre Dame was vulnerable, and like it's hard because I think she was a 113 in the relay, and like a 114.2 last week. So being 114.4, and her best was like a 116 going into this year. So she's already like she's made tremendous improvements and really done well. It's kind of thing that's hard. Like, okay, you didn't get the win, but like, you know, sometimes it's just not about that, and it's about having a good race. And she's done really well.
And one good race for you guys specifically in the 100 fly, and Aubrey Morris and Liz Perry. They were kind of, out of first place contention, but they were swimming against each other, battling for that second place. And Aubrey with a 105.4 and Liz with a 105.7. So, it's exciting for you as a coach to see your swimmers kind of competing against each other rather than against the team.
Yeah, it's always a good thing. I think, it's like having one good person kind of lifts everybody. Everyone tries to, go after that person and stuff, and that can be a really good thing. Aubrey also, her backstroke was a lifetime best for her, and actually the fastest we've had this year. She's not a backstroker, so now that kind of throws a big wrench into what we are thinking what might happen. Obviously, we have girls whose lifetime bests are a lot quicker than that, but I don't know. We'll see what happens down the stretch here.
It's a lot of mixing and matching your pieces of kind of like a chessboard of who gets to swim what race and what time they can finish it, and trying new things, I suppose.
Yeah, with the relays, it's about finding like the net fastest. Like Aubrey is obviously like our flyer and freestyler. That's kind of a position we had really locked her into. But we'll just kind of see even if someone else might be faster than her, like what is our net fastest going to be if we move things around. So we will see. We will really see about this. I think a backstroke, we've had a long competition this year.
And so we'll switch over to the men's team again, a 144-118 loss, and it was once again kind of like the Davis and Elkins meet. It was very similar to last season. Last season was 141-115. Very similar in terms of how the score ended up. And in the first race that the men swam, it was a medley relay with Anthony Giuseppetti, BJ Emmerich, Andrew Creelman, and Noah Loper, and they won that medley relay. And how exciting was it for you to see those guys come out with that first swim for them to come out on top?
That was really awesome. I don't think we've won that yet this year, but it was finally relay. We kind of had our four best people in it. We've had other folks out for whatever reason, or just move people around kind of this whole year. And so actually kind of unleashing that relay was really fun. And then we were ahead, I think, for the first three events, which haven't been ahead that much this year. And so, but then they kind of opened it up on us. The Rowan Kelleher kid was like, I think he got 3 wins. He just like, they're like all in a row too, or pretty close to it. And we just didn't recover from that. But I don't think we had anybody that was gonna take him down in the sprints. But it was fun to watch for sure. And it's hard. I think they won 8, we won 6. So it's not. I mean, it's pretty close. But I think that they're a really good team. I mean, they're the reigning conference champs for a reason. They're really unified. They were really supportive of each other. And to me, that's how you win. It's not times. It's like, okay, are you a team, right? And they are the most unified team in the conference, and that's kind of why they are successful.
And hopefully something that we'll look here at Frostburg State to get over the years of obviously a very young team that you have with you right now, and hope to build that chemistry as the season goes on. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk a little bit about Mason Lewis, who I don't believe I've talked about with you at all this season. Maybe you've
Now, I know you're talking about, you're probably looking at the wrong time. He did not do a 46.0.
Okay, that was the time that I was looking at. So
that was misreported. He was a 56.0, which is good for him. Yeah, that was a mistake.
Okay.
I congratulated him on that, setting our team record with a probably conference-winning time of 46.0, but that was not correct. So I'll shout out to Mason. He had a good swim.
And so in that case, then we'll go to Noah Loper in that same event, who hopefully had the correct time in there, but he lost out on first place now by .08 seconds. So that was the closest race out of the entire meet, I believe, for him. And Noah's, we've sung his praises, I think, every week on the Bobcast. He, could be the front runner for your guys' men's swimmer of the season. He got another couple of wins under his belt. He won the 200 free and a 147.1 and the 400 IM, which, would you say that that's his best event? I feel like every week he seems to be kind of the front runner in every single swim meet for that 400 IM.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely we've lacked a 4IMer for really since my whole time here. I mean, we've had people do it, but not an explicit 400 IMer. That's definitely up there as one of his better events. 400 IM, 200 IM, 200 free, 500 free. He's definitely in that mid-distance zone where you can just kind of keep going. The 4M was sweet. He was kind of next to Adonis, who is one of their best swimmers for sure. Runner up to Anthony Giuseppetti in the 200 backstroke last year, though. He beat Giuseppetti today, or yesterday. But no, they were neck and neck, and then he hit the breaststroke, and Noah just went off, and it was really fun to watch. It was the second fastest time in Frostburg history. Our record is a 4:15, so we'll see if Noah can do that by the end of the year. But that was really cool. The 100 free, it was similar to Fran, where it's we just got to race, and we got to we need to hate losing. Right? Everybody wants to win, but the best people just hate losing, and it's just about racing. Eyeballing it, man, I thought he won. I really did. Usually I can call these things. I don't know. I'm not gonna doubt the pads, rigged pads here, but no, it was a good race for sure. There's a few things he can kind of keep working on that. He was aware of. He kind of told me right away at the end, but it was pretty fun to watch.
It'd be nice if we could get the slow motion replays, camera above the water, or in the NBC Olympic, on TV, you can see the exact touch. But
that's right.
Still, and I know we talked the other week about your guys finishing at the wall touches. I remember the women's team a couple weeks back had a few losses that were all within that touching distance. So something certainly that swimmers have to work on.
Yeah, and we were the touch-up battle is always something we try to do, and we got better at Fairmont as we went along. And our women actually, in the latter half of the meet, they corrected a lot of that stuff, which was good. But it's always a struggle for sure.
And so continuing with the men's team, and PJ Emmerich, who won the 200 breast and 219.2, and also was part of that front running relay team that won the first event. What did you make of his day overall with getting that win and being a part of the team relay win?
His peers chose him as swimmer of the meet. He did really good. I don't think he's ever been that fast in season. He was like a 101 in the relay. He was doing 104s a month ago. And he was doing 102.9 here. It is really exciting to see. I mean, it's really come together for him. And he's a little bit more of a long-distance breaststroker than a sprint breaststroker. But that was pretty darn fun to watch things come together. And he was riding high for sure.
And so another swimmer, and Andrew Creelman, who won the 100 fly. And I know you've been missing him for the first couple weeks of the season, and you've sung his praises last week on the Bobcast of how much you've loved having him back, and wins that 100 fly in a 53.3, almost a 53.4. But how big has it been to have him back and have him competing with the rest of your team?
It's amazing. On paper with best times, he's our best 50 freestyler, and this meet was his first 50 freestyle of the year. Question my strategy maybe, but he did well in that relay, opening it up and getting us a big lead with that too. It's fun. I don't know if I gotta look at the conference. I don't know if anyone's been faster than him in fly so far. I gotta look up our times because he's, yeah. I mean, he kind of that event was pretty loaded up, and Fairmont's pretty loaded up, and can I say? Oh no, Arthur Asfield at West Virginia Wesleyan has been faster. He's been a 52. That's definitely gonna be a thorn in PJ and what's his name, Andy, Andy's side, and we'll see what he can do against him. But he's positioned pretty well.
And so we go on to the final relays, which were close in two sections where you had both of the A teams and your guys just lost out on first place by a .45 margin, and then you won the third place in the B heat by .38 seconds. So, you come in and the A team is down and you're trying to catch back up, so you're watching them and it's a close race, and then you look and your B team guys are right behind, them and another close race. So what is it like to have those relays both be so close for the A and the B teams?
I mean, it's a good sign. I think more fast people is always better, and I think it's a good sign for us coming to the conference meet when it's not 9, 4, 3, 2, 1, but we can some of those people that actually score some meaningful points, and that depth, that team depth, I think is really going to help us. And yeah, it's again, when it's 11, 4, 2 in the relay, getting third is huge. It's a 4-point swing, but getting first is like a 14-point swing. So it's obviously I'm proud of that and happy, but we got to get more firsts.
It's any coach, it's as swimming is certainly it definitely helps as we talked about in getting those points. And
it's funny, interesting strategy. Typically, more points. If your team can get more points, they will win. And if they get less points than your opponent, you might in fact lose.
It's quite possible in that scenario.
This is the John Madden school of analysis here.
Are you gonna make a Bryan Christiansen swimming video game after this as well and try to go that route, or are you just gonna kind of stick to coaching for the time being?
I can't think of a more boring video game.
It was my childhood, so that,
You would press you could press like alternating buttons for like strokes.
They do that, yeah. In the Olympic, there was a London 2012 Olympic game, and they had swimming in that. And
all I know is there's Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
always a fan favorite. Yep, you gotta throw the Wii remote
That's
forward
right.
and try to swim and keep pace.
We'll have Anthony Giuseppetti and you swing backstroke arms.
Absolutely. And so you come back home. You're finally back in the Bobcat Natatorium here at Frostburg State on Saturday. I will be calling your meet up from the stands. I'll likely be the only person up there, so I'll be excited to see you guys finally in action in person and be able to call you guys, on the air on Bobcat Sports Network. And good luck for that Saturday. I know we just talked about Wesleyan, one of their strong swimmers, going up against Andrew, and so it should be a fascinating meet all around.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they won the conference 2 years ago, but I think they're surely strong. I mean, their women, I think, are going crazy. Their women did not lose an event against Davis and Elkins. I never want to count us out, but it's definitely going to be an uphill battle. That might be, again, as long as we're swimming fast, I'm pretty happy. The men, I think, are vulnerable. The men, I think, are really vulnerable. I don't know if anyone's beaten Asfeld on our team, unless he does maybe Noah can get him in a 400 IM. I don't even know about that, but he's not going to do that. But I think that they've, we could sneak up on them. We just gotta get pumped up. We gotta do the work, and honestly, I'd like our men to not be 0-5.
It certainly would.
I think these men have high expectations of themselves, and we don't want to do that, and we gotta get pumped up and pull it off. So
absolutely, and so we'll wish you the best of luck on that. I thank you for once again taking the time out of your day to come and talk to me on the Bobcast, and I know it's one of your favorite moments of the week to come in and kind of just talk about random things and also getting to praise your team.
It is one of my favorite things. That's a very true statement. And I hope that comes across to everybody out there. And I hope that this has been one of your favorite, 80 minutes of your life. And, I wish you all the best out there. And shout out to Sarah and Missy, great people. And as always, today is and always will be a great day to be a Bobcat. Go Cats.
We are back on the Bobcast this week with head volleyball coach Kylie Heyne. Coach, you had a pretty tough week considering your matchups last week, a back-to-back against Wheeling, who has been the top team in this conference for many years in the past, and this year they're not as dominant, but we still know that they have a lot of quality. And then West Liberty, a team that you lost 25-14, 25-9, and 25-22 earlier in this year, but a much improved result from your standpoint. And we'll start with the Wheeling games, a back-to-back. And odd, you went to Wheeling on a Monday, they came back here on a Tuesday, and you're playing the same team back-to-back. So, we talked earlier in the season about all of your scheduling conflicts and changes here and there. So what was it like, talking to your team of like, hey, we're going to play this team on the road, and then they're going to come back here was it nice to get a little scouting report before you were able to come back home?
Yeah, I think that honestly now playing two matches back-to-back in the same day, like a double header against AB versus playing Wheeling back-to-back Monday, Tuesday, it's I think physically better and mentally, like you're able to give yourself a little bit of a break. And then just I think that with how we played on Monday, going into Tuesday, knowing exactly what to expect, it was helpful. Yeah, I mean, still didn't get the result that we wanted, but it's okay.
And so, Wheeling from your time at D&E and also from your playing days in Frostburg, even though it was Division III and Division II at the time, but a team that lost for the first time this year, and a stat that, I was amazed at when Matt had told me before I went on there, of 219 straight conference victories going back to 2008 for them, and such a great program that they've built, and their coach of doing a great job since I think she's been there since 2001. Of building that program. But you guys, that first game, it was pretty close, and it's 25-22, 25-16, and 25-19. And focusing on that first set of that game, you're down 16-7 to start off, and 9 points is, as you know, a huge gap in volleyball. But you come back all the way, and I believe it was 21-20 at one point before Wheeling scored those last 4 points and end up losing by just 3. So what did you see in that first set coming up against that team?
The first set, I mean, like, we were very dominant at the net. I think that finally we were clicking with blocking, and that's been a huge focus for us all season. So that was an exciting improvement, and to see the results immediately, I think that's nice. I think that, another trend, which isn't always a great trend, is, like, digging yourself a hole, but then being able to kind of climb out of it. So, like, seeing that and being able to focus on the positives of that. But now it's more so, like, learning how to finish. We work so hard to get ourselves back into a set or a match or whatever it is, but then we need to close it. But overall, I think that with each match that we have, whether, throughout this entire short season that it is, there has been those improvements and, really holding on to that as we go into our next match.
And so in the third set, it was much closer the entire way. You go back and forth, much as you did in the next match on Tuesday. But, at Wheeling, it's 20-18. You're right there, and then they just reel off 4 straight. It's 24-18, and you're kind of hoping for a miracle at that point. What was it at the end of that set was it just Wheeling executed and you guys weren't able to, or they just outplayed you guys, or what happened at the end of that one?
I think that a lot of volleyball comes from that experience of being put into those situations of like, hey, it's 18-18, who's going to push the next 7 points, and who wants that? And I think that right now it's just the inexperience of some of the girls on the team. Like, we have a bunch of freshman starters, and they may have seen that in high school or parts of club or a little bit, but when you bring a whole bunch of first-year players together, and even sophomores too, that haven't necessarily been in that situation with, oh my goodness, we're playing Wheeling and we're tied 18-18, this doesn't happen, you kind of fall into a trend of what you're comfortable or used to. And unfortunately for Wheeling, what they're comfortable and used to doing is winning. And with Frostburg right now, it's a little bit more of a comfort of like, oh, we know very well how to like get to 18 and then just kind of fall short. So it's just a change of mentality right now.
And so you talk about that experience, and you guys don't have any seniors on this squad. You only have 4 juniors that are playing right now. You have 7 first-year players. Wheeling on the other side as well, they only have 3 seniors, and they have 9 first-years on their team. So, did you see that? Like, you talked about having experience, but did you see a lot of youth and just, kind of not entirely being totally in there as you would with some of these other teams where they're loaded with juniors and seniors?
Yeah. No, I think that honestly across the conference, not just even in our division, but like across the conference, there's a lot of schools rebuilding. And I think a lot of it does have to do with COVID, because girls committing to schools and then realizing like, oh, we're not playing in the fall. Maybe I want to transfer somewhere else, or I want to stay home, whatever the reason is. So like, I think a lot of programs are dealing with just change in general and then figuring out how to grow from that. So Wheeling, we had a great conversation before our match on Monday. Like, I just got to learn a lot more about her and her journey at Wheeling, which was really cool. She should make a documentary. But anyway, she had to do a bunch of recruiting. And she lost a few of her like top recruits too, because of COVID and because of just like the financial struggles that Wheeling was having. So I think that for her, it's still keeping that culture that she's developed and then like building on top of that with new people. And it's the same thing here too, getting a whole bunch of new people in and trying to figure out what our thing or our culture, our groove will be. And that takes time, and nobody really wants to wait. You just want to be great right away.
Yeah. It's,
but I think it's just like, I don't want to say the easy thing to say, but like kind of every school is going through like their building year. So it's just interesting to see what teams are coming out on top.
Yeah, and I remember we talked a little bit about, right before we went on there is of your defense in that game and forcing Wheeling into, your blocks. And, I looked up the stat. I wondered, Wheeling, they're one of the top teams in the conference. They usually do pretty well. They always hit well, but you guys forced them into their lowest kill percentage since their last season they played in September of 2019 in a non-conference match for them. So, what was it about your defense that day? And I wrote down Raven Pratt and McKaylee Thompson-Urand, your 2 middle blockers, had 14 combined blocks. Raven had 8 and McKaylee had 6. And Wida Linez, who she's obviously gotten her accolades for her sets, but as a blocker, haven't seen a ton of her, but she got 5 on that day as well. So what was it defensively that made you guys so strong?
I think it's a few things. One, I don't want to take away from our block it being solid. I think that that's important, and making sure that we're setting our block in the right way. But I think also with Wheeling's hitter, their outside specifically, having such strong tendencies, it was an easier thing to work around. So like, I think that she particularly wasn't prepared to be shut down as much as she was, as early as she was in the match. And I think that's where that first year mentality kind of comes in, like, oh wow, this hasn't happened to me. I don't know what else to do. So for us, it worked in our advantage. It wasn't until I think the third set. Yeah, it was the third set that they really focused on running that slide with number 23, who was the right side for Urbana last year. And like, we just couldn't get her on the line. And then they started utilizing hands. And, going into Tuesday's match, it was like, okay, we know that this is what they're going to do, so we need to make that adjustment early. And we tried, and it worked, but she's a great hitter. But I think that, like I said before, it's such a mental game. And as a hitter and as a blocker, you get those blocks and you automatically have this incredible self-esteem boost. And then you get blocked. And I think if you don't have that experience and a little bit of that maturity, it's just like completely deflating. And it's just like, oh man, I don't know what else to do. So then you just kind of keep making error after error. And for us, it worked in our favor for that match. But then Tuesday, I think it was kind of a reboot for her. All of their hitters actually like, okay, we got to put the ball away or be smarter with where we're putting the ball.
And so you just talked about that second match back here at Bobcat Arenas, 25-16, 25-21, and 25-14. And Wheeling did a much better job on their end of executing their kills and getting a higher percentage. And I listened to a little bit of your portion of the Bobcast last week when you were on with Matt, and you said something that the best teams always have 3 or 4 girls that they can go to. They don't just have one that always, they can go to, because one player can get shut down. When you have 3 or 4, it's hard to go against. And they had, a nice 3 of Lexi Smith, their number 6, who right in the middle. She can go on the outside. She can hit from the middle. She has versatility. Reagan Rossi, who I think led their team in kills, for a good portion of the season. And then Caitlin Trace. And I'm not even talking about their number 23, who you brought up. And what is it like, going against a team with that much quality, as opposed to, and we'll get into a little bit of a team like West Liberty, where we talked about where Madison Clayton is kind of like their go-to, where it's, that one and maybe 1 or 2 others, but, with such quality from Wheeling.
I think that I meant it last week when I said it in the Bobcast, and I think that's what all teams strive for. Like, your outsides typically are going to get more balls. It's just the way that statistics work. But, like, once you have that spread of your offense and you can rely on so many different hitters, so many things just open up for you. When you have your hitter or offensive player that's just having a rough day, they can still have a rough day and still succeed. So I think that, I think with Wheeling, like, they do have such a strong and dynamic front row, and we didn't even, number 25, who was not even playing, I think she did something to her knee in her previous match. She was a great middle last year for them. So I mean, she's fantastic. They just have such flexibility within their front row, and I think that's what keeps like an opposing blocking team on their toes. Knowing that no matter what kind of pass it is, they have so many different options. But then, I think the big difference, at least in the second match on Tuesday against Wheeling, was more or less like their serve-receive. They serve-receive so much better. Their libero had a kind of off day on Monday, which worked again for us. On Tuesday, she unfortunately was like back on her amazing game. So, but anyway, I think that, like, having that spread of offense is so important, and that's one of the things that we are consistently talking about within our group. A lot of times it seems like we're relying heavily on Bev to, like, put the ball away when we have plenty of other people who know how to score points. And by spreading that out and allowing different people at different times and being smart about it, it kind of encourages and alleviates some pressure in different areas.
And you talked a little bit about Wheeling's libero, Audrey Francis, who I think topped the 30 dig mark in both of those matches. And I remember I was on the broadcast in that second game, and there were 3 or 4 plays I saw from Francis, and on one of them I stood up and I just said, "Wow." On the
how are you supposed to score a point?
Exactly,
like, come on.
And it was just amazing. But on your end, I want to bring up, and I know that you've sung the praises, Beverly Braun, of this entire year. You've mentioned that she might be your best attacker on this team, and you've nominated her for Player of the Week for the MEC this week. But I want to bring up her defense, which might go underappreciated on the season. I looked up that in 4 of her last 5 matches, she had double figures in digs, and I believe she led the team in that Wheeling game in digs. I remember one specific one where she kind of just threw out a fist like a goalkeeper saving a shot in soccer, and I was like, wow, that was great reactions on that. But, obviously on offense, we know what she can do. She's so powerful and gets into good positions. But defensively, what does she bring to your team that you see?
To be honest, I think that right now Bev might be a little stronger defensively than she is offensively. I think everybody, it's really easy from the outside looking in to see tall athletes that have a vertical to be like, oh, wow, she's the best hitter. And then sometimes not necessarily thinking about all of the other aspects that go into just like swinging and putting the ball away. I mean, Bev is smart. She's a great athlete. She's great for this team. But I think right now defensively she's just doing better serve receive and like reading and reacting to defense. And offensively, I think, she's scoring points, but we're trying to teach her a little bit about how to be, I guess we call it an easy hitter. So it's where no matter where the ball is, the set is coming from, you're as easy to set as possible, and your teammates know that you're going to be able to put the ball away. So, I think from the outside looking in, you see Bev and you're like, oh, she's a great offensive player, but defensively she's doing really well. Like defensively as an entire team, we're doing well. Like Bianca's doing great. McKenna's doing great. Like we have some great defensive players, and I'm really proud of them.
And you just talked a little bit about McKenna Hauser, who's your libero, and I want to bring up a little bit of her versatility that she brings, because she kind of, I'll be watching a game, and I don't really ever mention it. I should, but she just is all over the court at every time. I look up, and she's on the far sideline, and she's trying to save a ball to get it back in bounds, and then immediately the next play, if you just pass it over, they come back, and she's making a dig on the near sideline, but and from defensive, obviously the defensive specialist, but also as a backup setter, we'll call to Edwina, who, often McKenna's the one that will come up and she'll take control. But, how does her versatility kind of work within this team?
No, I think that from, being new this season and everything, learning just a little bit more about, like, McKenna and her journey as far as, like, having an injury that held her out her freshman year. So this is technically her first year playing collegiate volleyball. She really has risen to the challenge. Like, I think she came in with the expectation of being a starting libero, and then unfortunately she wasn't able to compete. But, like, that never deterred her. So she always just has had this mentality that this is my position, knowing she has to work hard for it. But she works hard every single day in and out of practice and matches, and I think that shows on the court too. Running from sideline to sideline to get a ball, whatever it is. I think for her, though, her biggest piece is the communication aspect of being a leader on the court and learning how to have that effective communication with your teammates and helping your hitters as far as, like, where they're supposed to be hitting. But, I think she really does want to work hard and be the best she can be for her team. So, she's doing a great job.
And you talked about that leadership, and just one side note I want to bring up is, I was taking a break on the broadcast, and I forget if it was either a timeout or in between the second and third sets, and I saw her go out, and your players were out on the court and in their little huddle, and she went around to every single player and was talking to them and slapping their hands and trying to get them fired up and bringing that. So it was nice to see from you guys. We're such a young team, and someone, stepping up, taking charge, and trying to be a leader and motivate.
Yeah.
So after that, we go into West Liberty on Friday. You go out to the ARSC, who it's a pretty fascinating little complex that they have there in the way that it's set up.
It's very bright.
It's
very bright.
They do a great job with their lighting, and I think it helps. They have the black bleachers that are set up on their mid court and on that little ramp. So, first match of the season was, the first two were, and remember we talked about this, a couple weeks ago. It was a blowout for the first two sets, and then you came back and you really battled them hard in the third set and just fell short. But in this match, 25-15, 25-20, 25-23, much closer this time around. Was that from that scouting report in the first match, or is it just you guys growing up throughout as the season goes along?
That's a great question. Well, the first time we played West Liberty was, 2 practices out from being in pause or quarantine, whatever it was. This time around, I think it's always helpful the second time playing a team, no matter what it is. The second time playing a team, because you already have that experience of like, oh, I know this hitter, I know whatever. You already have not just a scouting report from watching film, but like a scouting report from physically playing against that team. I think that to answer your question, though, yes, I think that we are getting better as a team at every single match that we play, every single practice that we have. I think the frustrating thing is that when you have scores that close, when you have scores is like ever since we've played AB, there honestly has been no good reason why we have lost a match outside of the fact that we just can't finish, and really focusing on that in practices and everything, and really just wanting, like, it's some of the, now this is me just venting to you.
I'll take it. It comes with the job.
I think it's so interesting because, like, as coaches, you go back and you're like, okay, fundamentally, what skill is it that we're struggling with? How do we want to get our team better to improve on this? But then when you really dissect it, and like Kendall and I are watching film, and it's like, fundamentally, what do we need to improve on? And it's always going back to the need to win, not even the want to win or the desire to win. It's like need it so much that it's like air I have to breathe, and struggling to figure out how to coach that outside of just saying it, I think is a big thing. And I know that there's tons of other coaches out there that are like, yeah, when someone figures it out, can you like spread the wealth? Like that's what we're all trying to get to. And I think what happens is when you do find a collective group, like a team that already has that innate fire and passion and just like need, great things happen. So I think that's just, we're talking a lot about it. We're doing this really awesome mental skills training with Jessica, and she's put this together, and I think I really wish we would have done this weeks ago, because I would love to see where it would have come, like now entering our last week of our season. But I think that I even forget your question. Yes, I think we're getting better from like first time playing West Liberty to second time playing West Liberty. Yes, there's been growth within our team, and it's just a bummer because we like very easily those scores could be flipped. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, talking about getting better throughout the season goes, and Jackie Sterenberg, who we've talked about before and had a really, really slow start to the season, just, couldn't get her swing going. But in the last few matches, she's really stepped it up. She led the team in kills against West Liberty and added 3 blocks. And I wanted to bring it up in the Wheeling game, but I knew we were talking about Jackie for the West Liberty game. But defensively as well, she's gotten a few nice digs under her belt as well. But what's been for her to be able to step up in these last few weeks compared to early in the season where she didn't have it?
So I'm smiling only because Jackie and I like just talked about this. We talked about we had a conversation earlier in the season when I took her out, and she just wanted, it was a great conversation. But then, talking with Jackie, I think it was just yesterday, 2 days ago. Yeah, Saturday, 2 days ago. I was like, Jackie, what's changed? What? I'm totally fine with whatever has changed. And I think pretty much the conclusion that we came to was she hates not playing more than she actually does playing. And I know that sounds really weird, but she hates the thought of not being able to be on the court than actually when she is on the court. I don't want to say it's the fear, because it's not fear. It's just that need. We go she needs to play. Mm-hmm. And then she realized that she was thinking so much about doing perfectly, and now she's just focusing so much about needing to be on the court. And so that's great that one individual has figured it out. And now we need the entire team to kind of figure that out individually, but then also as a group. So, I'm really happy. I'm happy for her, and I'm happy that we've had that conversation, because there's been big growth with her specifically. And that's encouraging too. It's just, I hope I don't have to wait for some of these freshmen to become sophomores for that whole clicking thing to happen. But, I think that's one of the cool things about being a coach. You get to take kids from, let's just say, 18 to 22 years old, and you get to help them grow up into the people that they're meant to be. And, if you get to have some little part of that growth aspect, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's not just from a playing standpoint. it's also
playing too. That's cool, but just in general, I think that's what's fun.
Yeah, it's and we did Behind the Pall way back in the fall. I remember talking to several of coaches, and that was one thing they brought up. And I remember specifically Brian Parker was one that was adamant. He's been here for almost 20 years now, and he was so happy of the invitations to wedding he got and the baby pictures that he would get from his former players. And it's one of his favorite parts of coaching, and you're just really still new to coaching in a way, and getting your start, but building relationships with your players, and it's great to see. So, one final player I wanted to bring up, and you mentioned her a little ago, of Bianca Smalls, and I want to talk about her serving, where there's not really an ace getter on this team, but Bianca is certainly one. And I remember it was a home match. I think it was against Alderson Broadus, where she had 2 serves that you could draw a line with a pencil on the court, and it would still hit that line. Mm-hmm. It was that close to the edge. But what does she bring from her serves? And also, I notice teams sort of target her when she's on the court of their serves going at her and her being able to handle it. But how has she handled that as well as her on the serve?
So Bianca's serve is awesome. Like, I mean, Bianca as a whole right now as an entire player is doing great. You know, I think even in practices we have her playing like 6 rotation outside. And honestly, the biggest reason why she's not a 6 rotation player for us right now, it sounds bad, but it's really just her height, comparing her to Jackie and Bev right now. Like, she's just not reaching as high. But defensively, well, I guess offensively, speaking of the serve, you know, she has a great serve. She hits zones that Kendall calls like incredibly well. If she's not getting an ace, she's at least keeping the team out of system. And then defensively, if teams want to target her on serve receive, that's fine. That's like, go for it, because she is she's taken our passing philosophy to complete heart and has implemented it very well. And she also is very comfortable using her hands. So she's kind of a threat defensively in that way, where if a ball is like creeping up on her, she has no problem stepping up and taking the ball with her hands, where you see a lot of defensive players that are a little bit more hesitant with that and need to really work to move their feet to get in the best position to pass the ball. And she's great at reading, and she's also extremely athletic, so she can throw her body on the floor too. So, and then on top of all of it, she has a great personality. You just gotta laugh. Like, it happened twice. It happened twice this past week. Once on Monday at Wheeling, and then Tuesday at home against Wheeling. You know, it was a crazy ball at Wheeling. She ran. She went for the save. I'm pretty sure we ended up, I don't know if we got the point. It doesn't matter. But she made this save, and I think she hit her head. And it was a little concerning because it's like, oh, man, she hit her head. Does she have a concussion kind of thing? But, like, the play, we just kind of had to pause for a second. And she just yells about, like, she holds nothing back. She lost her contact. She was just feeling her emotions. So, like, that happened on Monday. And then Tuesday, the same thing happened. She runs to make this save. But I think it was like a little, PTSD. She didn't want it to happen again. So she makes this very unathletic looking movement to save her head. It was like very late into the third set, and we ended up losing. But she just knows how to bring a good laugh to the team. And I think that's sometimes really, really important. So I think Bianca as an entire player, serving, serve, receive, defensively, personality-wise, is doing really well for our team.
And I want to bring up a little personal story of Bianca personality. And usually for our camera work for the basketball games, we usually had Danielle would come and help us out, and she's been great. But, she had a 2-week pause where she couldn't do that. And on one of the games, Bianca stepped up and came up to us, and she came up. She very nervous, very shy, walking up. Hi, hello, I'm running the camera, and I explained it to her, and she, I'm like, you look, are you okay? She's like, I'm just really nervous. And I'm like, it's a camera, you're fine. You can't possibly mess it up, anything that would affect anything. But it, was just nice to see that she was so reserved, but also, willing to be outgoing in her own way.
Exactly. She's been great.
Well, you wrap up this last week. Tomorrow you take the long trip up to South Euclid for a double-header match, and then you get to come right back home after about a 3.5-4 hour drive, and then wrapping up the regular season on Friday back at home against Fairmont State. So we wish you the best of luck in this week. For certainly just for travel purposes is going to be pretty difficult, but good luck in this week, Coach, and we thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us.
Thank you.
Back on the Bobcast here with women's soccer head coach Bryan Parker. Coach, opening up your season with a 2-1 win in your first game back since 2019. I've talked to a couple of your players, and I realized that they're kind of growing a little bit tired of playing against each other all the way since September. So what has it been to get back onto the field and finally play against another team for the first time?
To be honest, like a kid in a candy shop is how it feels. It felt awesome. It was a cold, kind of dreary, rainy day, and I did not hear a single peep about it from any of the players. Not a single complaint about the weather or the food or any of the typical things, about the bus travel. Everyone was just super excited to get out and play. Fun day. I think some of the things, of course, we have adjusted to. We haven't done in a while. Dealing with referees, for example. How's the referee going to call it? What are the sort of contact limits? Obviously, all officials have a little bit of different interpretation, and so that was a little bit of an adjustment. But it was just a great day to see us really go out and compete.
And so you talked about the official, and then 4 minutes in, it's I looked back at the game a little bit and tried to find some plays, and that first foul that's called right on the edge of the box on the free kick was, well, consider it a soft foul if we can call it that, and then Cabal goes and scores it off of Ashley Bilger. He got her hand to it but couldn't keep it out. But then you go back right 2 minutes later and you score your own goal. So how important was it for you guys after going that 1-0 down to immediately come back and score right away and tie the score back up?
Well, of course, we talk about being resilient and having mental toughness, but you can't acquire that by coaching it and waving a magic wand. You have to experience it, and you have to have that kind of confidence. And to be honest with you, I feel like we learned some good lessons yesterday, while still getting the result, which is always the preferred way to learn lessons, I think. So that was a great example. Partly is again, the official, what are they calling? What are the upper body, contact limits, so to speak. And then regardless of the calls, I mean, you have to make an adjustments, but we're not worried about officials. We're worried about us and just making sure that we're have good defensive positioning, or getting goal side or anticipating, big touches and not overcommitting and doing all the basic things defenders do. And, I don't even have a judgment about that call. The whistle blows, it's a call, so we just react. And we reacted well. It was a great shot, and Ashley did get her. I'm sure she wishes or would say she should have had it. All goalkeepers think they should have every save. They should make every save. But it was awesome to respond and get chance. We were buzzing at the start of the game. I was really happy. If anything, I was happiest about was the energy we had at the beginning of the game and quality we had. We were buzzing around. They were chasing us, and that free kick goal was, I think, against the run of play as far as the game started. So we did get our chance immediately and equalized the game, and then went up a little bit later. So obviously, a fantastic response overall.
Yeah, and that first goal came as a result of turning defense into the offense, a tackle right in the midfield, and Audra kind of spun away, got hold of the ball, got her shot in, and then it was Alexis Pate who finished in on the rebound. And something that all good finishers do is, no matter where the shot goes, you always finish it in, and it might come to you, and it just did. And how did you think of Alexis Pate, who's new to this program and playing for the first time this year and getting that goal?
She's a special athlete. She's a wonderful competitor and very coachable. And, she had an ACL recovery, right as she left high school to go to college, and then did an RTC experience and has all kinds of interesting college experiences before she arrived here. I knew her, as a high school and club player, know the family, great family. Just thrilled to have her, thrilled to provide her with an opportunity to kind of show her stuff. And she is, good on the ball, but she's also good off the ball. And as you said, hunting rebounds is a special thing, and not everyone is as busy as they should be around the goal. And she did a great job of just being alert. And she got a little gift, from Audra Curtin, who does hit the paint off a ball when she wants to. And so that was a good hard shot. And we know that when Audra unleashes that shot, there's going to be second chances. And so it was just a good opportunity for her. I'm glad she cashed in. She had a good game overall. She had other better chances, but that was the one that counted.
And so you talk about Audra Curtin, who really came to life last year. She had a pretty quiet first year here at Frostburg, and then last year, second leading scorer, and had a great partnership with Brooke Shahady, and those two really kind of led the team in terms of goals scored, and comes back immediately this year, gets a goal and an assist to her name, and that kind of whipped cross almost shot into that far post as one of the players was following up, would have scored it anyway, but Audra, providing the offense once again. But what has she brought to this team, as she's one of the more experienced players considering the amount of talent that you lost off of last season? But, from a leadership perspective or just from a playing perspective on the field, what has she brought, going back to last year and practicing into the first game?
So Audra is clearly a special athlete. She has a skill set and athleticism that is high, is really high for. I think at this level she's way above average. And I think one of her challenges has always been to just raise her game. You kind of use that cliche about really trying to achieve at the highest range of your ability, and she's starting to now do that. She's kind of learned how to change gears. Another cliche, and really kind of bring a good performance out of herself in terms of energy and quality and all those things. And so we're kind of seeing that. I think it's something she's probably had in her. Part of it is confidence and part of it is experience. And now she's in a very comfortable place, I think, on our team and does have some leadership responsibilities as one of our co-captains. So I think she's just in a good place. And so we're seeing the results of that. And, a lot of that, again, is just her maturity and her ambition, about wanting to be that sort of best you can be version of yourself, and she's getting close. You never believe you're good enough. I mean, you always tell the athletes that as well, and I'm sure she certainly knows there's things that she can improve, and I'm sure there's moments she would like to have back, that second half breakaway. I'm sure she'd love to have that shot back, but she's going to be an exceptional, player for us, and I expect her to be very productive.
I'm sure there's several plays that every single team in this conference would like to have back after their first game back in over a year. And so, I want to talk a little bit, about being a soccer person myself, of knowing, in some games you're just going to have to kind of ride your luck sometimes, and happened twice in the second half where D&E hit a shot that just skimmed off the right post and then had another one that cannoned back off the crossbar. So, what is it, as from a coaching perspective of just being like, hey, maybe we should be tied back up again, or maybe they should have the lead, but we're still in it, so we got to stay focused and not allow any more of those chances.
Yeah, so what you're referring to, I guess you could just kind of call game management, sort of managing the energy and the flow of the game. And it's very hard to do that sometimes in soccer. And I think what happened with D&E was they changed gears on us for sure in the second half and really came after us a bit, changed their system a little bit, but more or less it was just managing the energy in the roster and getting the right players in the right mix at the right times, and he did a good job of that. Declan's a good friend. I like the job he's done there for sure. So we were certainly withstanding some pressure. We kind of faded a little bit and got our fatigue sort of started to set in. So we had a little rotation going. We rotated a bit more, of course, second half than first half, and hung in there. I mean, we got the 2 breakaway chances because, of course, they're pressing up and kind of throwing some numbers and taking chances. So it could have kind of gone either way, but there's no doubt that the snap header that Bilger had to save was a fantastic chance that, she came up big. She came up big on another save and held the rebound. So there were certainly moments there that could have changed the game. So, having that kind of grit also to sort of withstand the pressure, sort of, bend but don't break and hang in there was also something I think that we learned. And we'll definitely gain confidence from that second half defensive effort for sure.
And so we've talked a couple times about Ashley Bilger, who's a first-year goalkeeper, and she gets the first start of the year. And last year with Emily Faust graduating, and you had Vajetsi and also Longworth as well. And last year kind of a goalkeeper by committee in a way where they all got starts. They all played in a lot of the games, but I've talked with Mina Del Barello and Alexis Dell. They've both helped us out in the athletic department. They both have rave reviews about Ashley in between the sticks. And what has she, brought in? Is it stability that she can bring into the position after last year where, no one could really find a ton of consistency?
Well, last year, yes, the ability of the keepers was just more similar maybe last year, but there were also injuries and, there was the concussion at one point, with Emily had to recover. So, some of it was incidental. And, of course, you always want to have keepers ready to play. And it's unfortunate, of course, only one plays at a time. So how ready is that next keeper is a big question. And we've had those moments, of course. I think every team does. But there's no question since September, since we started, we had, I feel like we had an 8-week, preseason in the fall and had a chance to really evaluate our players. And Bilger has just bubbled to the top. She's just very consistent in very many ways. She's great with her feet and has an ability with her feet that is exceptional. Obviously, can take free kicks, but also handle back passes and things. She's a great shot stopper. She's good in the air. She makes good decisions and is very verbal. So all those things combined have kind of earned her this opportunity. And I think, like I said, I'm sure she would love that free kick back. But she had I don't want to say she redeemed herself, but she kept her focus and played a very consistent game in very wet, unpredictable conditions. And I think she has kind of. She certainly earned, I think, the confidence of the team. But of course, our other keepers are good, and it'll be a competition every week. And I imagine that the other ones will play. But she had a good start for sure.
As we know, as soccer fans, that competition for places is never a bad thing within a team. And so, as a goalkeeper myself, you talk about wanting that save back. I know it's very difficult to make maybe not a mistake you would call it, but something that you wish you could have back and be able to come back from it mentally. Personally, I feel goalkeepers, it's their number one thing of having to come back, from that place. And it was great to see her making 5 saves in that second half and getting you guys the win. So it was very, very nice.
Well, I'm really trying to empower our players to do a little bit more in terms of managing the momentum of the game. Of course, they're out there and they're talking to each other, and I think when something like that happens, we have a little huddle there, and what I'm hoping is being said is, hey, let's go get one for you, like it's going to happen, and they just, you got to let her off the hook and keep her positive, and then you just got to go get a goal for her, and it was kind of fun to see that we went right down and did that. So, like I said, I think we have gained a little bit of confidence, and and I think really learned a good lesson from that. It was good to see.
And so you wrap up this week. You have a big home game on Friday, West Virginia Wesleyan, the top 2 teams picked in the Central Division of the MEC. And we wish you the best of luck, and we'll certainly be around to support you guys and hope for what should be a pretty good contest between the two sides.
Yeah, it's a 4-team group, right? You're going to see the other teams right away. So they were picked to win the group, and obviously have had great teams and great pedigree, and put a number on us last year. And I know a lot of our players are not happy about that memory. So we'll see how it goes Friday. Obviously, we want to just get better every week and be competitive and let the score take care of itself.
Absolutely. And it's just great to see, both you guys and all of our sports being just back on the field and getting back to a tiny bit of normalcy in what's been a very unnormal year.
So I was thinking this is the first time we've ever played a competitive soccer game in the school history in the month of February. And then I realized that's probably true for a few hundred teams in the country and all of our teams too. So it's an interesting year, but of course great to be back.
Absolutely. And so thank you for taking the time out of your morning here to come and talk to us on the Bobcast.
Yep.
And good luck for this week and for the rest of the season as
well.
well.
Thanks for your time. Take care.
Back here on the Bobcast for the final time yet again for men's basketball, wrapping up their season with 4 games in the last week, just missing out on the MEC tournament by way of falling to Wheeling twice in the last week and a half of the season. Coach Sean Brown, Sr., you had a lot of new faces come into the program this year, losing the leading scorer from last year in Daniel Alexander. A lot of new pieces to fit into this squad, and another year where you're right on the cusp of the MEC tournament and you guys just fell short of it. But what did you make overall of your guys' season from start to finish?
Well, I thought our guys, in a short season, abbreviated season, I thought our guys, they improved from the very first game to the last, offensively and defensively. Chemistry was an issue all year. As far as guys, really not being able to play with each other. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before on the Bobcast, but we had 9 days to prepare for a full season, and that was tough for us. To my understanding, all the rest of the teams in conference, they had time to prepare. They had their normal 20-hour week every week schedule, and quite frankly, we didn't, and it kind of caught up to us. We had some injuries along the way. We had a few of our best players miss multiple games. All in all, I think I think we did the best that we could do with what we had, and although disappointing throughout the team and the coaching staff, I'm still proud of the guys.
And we'll kind of go through some of those guys as we go down the list of the players that we saw this season. And one of the newcomers, a transfer out of the community college ranks, in Ajay Edwards, who, me and Matt on the broadcast kind of came in. We didn't know much about this guy, and he comes out first game of the season, 32 spot against Davis and Elkins, and almost led you guys to a win in that game. It was 108-100 loss, but was the leading scorer on the season. He hit the most threes. He was second in assists, got the most steals, and actually at the end had the most total rebounds on this team, which is pretty impressive for a 5'11" guy. But what did Ajay bring for you guys throughout the season as you guys went on?
Well, Ajay brought to us was two things. He brought some consistency and stability. Ajay, he's a consistent worker, man. I mean, this guy's in the gym quite a bit. Very seldom there's a day that goes by when he's not in the gym putting in extra work. And I got to address that with him also. He got to back some of that off just a tad bit, because I don't know if you guys noticed, he hit a wall there. About game 11, I think it was 11-12, he hit a wall, and he's been trying to recover ever since. But he's a tireless worker, and that's the kind of guys we want in the program. He's hungry. He's a basketball junkie. He wants to get better. He wants to learn the game more. His basketball IQ is rising. Now these last few games, he's scored pretty easily. And against Fairmont, I think me and the coaches looked at each other at the end of the game. It was like he had a pretty quiet 28. So he's learning where to get his shots, how to get his shots. Lack of a post presence, so to say, kind of hurt him, as well as a few of other wing players, where they can kind of roll their defense. Have a rim protector just kind of sit in the lane. But yeah, Ajay, he was a model of consistency for us this year. No matter if he could, if he was scoring or not, he was always working hard, playing hard, coming to practice, showing up at practice to, work hard, and kind of lay it all on the line and leave it all out there. He's definitely the kind of kid that we want in our program moving forward, and the coaching staff didn't miss on him. That was almost a home run. I can't say enough good things about Ajay, including his 3.8 that he knocked down the first semester, and he's in a really demanding major, exercise science. So we love Ajay, and we're lucky to have him 2 more years, because he's a building block for us.
Yeah, and you can tell just on the court and as well as in real life, he's just a hard worker no matter what he's doing in every aspect that he does. And another player, and you talked a little about consistency, and one player that really couldn't have a consistent season was Caden Bartley, who missed, the middle third of the season, we'll call it, after an impressive first couple of games, and had a health condition that he had to work through, and came back late in the season, played big minutes in the last 5 minutes in the win against West Virginia State, played great defense. A really good defender that I noticed towards late in the season. He was always the one that would go and guard another guy who was starting to get hot. He put up a 38 spot against AB, a kind of breakout scoring game for him. Was the team's leading rebounder in terms of rebounds per game, and was also the best 3-point percentage maker on the season. And he can kind of tell that coming in, he was a Division I transfer out of Maryland Eastern Shore. He is so committed to this new program. He played his heart on the floor every single time, and just was every single game, every minute he was on the floor, he brought it. So, what did you make of Kanan from coming into this program for the first year?
Well, I want to first say, man, I'm so disappointed that we couldn't get in the playoffs for Kanan, man. I mean, for all the guys, but for Kanan, he's although he was a starter and he played fairly well at Eastern Shore, they really didn't play good basketball, so to say. They didn't win a lot of games, let's say that. And Kanan's a great kid. He got a huge heart. He don't speak much. He don't say much. But he's a lovely kid to be around, or should I say young man? Because he is a man. But he's a great guy to be around. And we wanted to have a winning season for Kanan, because he deserves it. He works pretty hard. He's very talented, obviously, extremely skilled and athletic. And yeah, those 5 games that he missed really hurt us. That slowed us up. Man, and like you said, the early third of our season that really slowed us up. We had developed some chemistry, started to get a little bit of momentum, and then he was shut down for 5 games. And then working him back the next 3 games wasn't easy when he was on a time restriction, and not a whole lot of time to get his conditioning back. And what can I say? I mean, Kanan is very talented. He could score with the best of them. We'd like for him to kind of be a little more aggressive, attacking the basket. But we didn't have a whole lot of time, and Kanan had less time than everybody else. So he'll figure us out. We'll use this spring to get ready. This summer he'll sounds like he wants to stay east for a good bit of the summer. So it'd be great if he could stay here in Frostburg or stay right in Virginia with some of his family and work out here on the East Coast and probably get in some of the summer leagues with the guys. Just kind of gaining that chemistry and really getting putting in work, the tangible work that's going to get us ready. Get us ready for next year's run.
Yeah, it certainly would be exciting to see a full season out of him. We see the talent that he brought in just a few games this year, and getting a full season out of that would certainly be wonderful for you guys.
Absolutely.
Another guy that I want to bring in, another transfer that you brought in, and Jahar Williams, who we've said, on multiple times throughout the Bobcast that he wasn't prepared to start this season. He was planning to redshirt to start out, and then, things happened as the offseason went on, and he was ready to play, and was a pretty big starter in most of the games, was a 3-point threat in every single game. Now, he didn't always shoot the ball as well as we know he can. He was kind of hot and cold as the season went on. But I want to very specifically bring up the Wheeling game at home last Thursday, where he put the ball on the floor and drove to the basket for really the first time all season. And Matt and I were on the broadcast, and we're like, who is this guy, Jahar Williams? He's putting the ball on the floor after, he's a catch-and-shoot guy. But what was it for him to be able to make a contribution, having not even prepared for him to play this year?
Well, it was huge because he was able to shake off some rust. His junior year at William and Mary, he didn't. He early in the season he was playing quite a bit, and then he just stopped. He stopped getting playing time. So some other guys emerged in the new coach's system, and he just stopped. He didn't play much after that. So he was really shaking off a ton of rust of actually just not actually getting in the game, of seeing game time. So this year, when the ruling came down that everyone to get their year back, he was excited, wasn't ecstatic. He was kind of confused, and he didn't know, really know how to think, what to feel, because this was going to be a year for him, an adjustment year, getting acclimated academically, getting acclimated with the team, and just kind of learning the game. So he just kind of got thrust into the fire. But for the most part, I'm glad we had this year. I'm glad he elected to use this year and play and not opt out, because he was able to shake off quite a bit of rust. I'll say the last 2 games, the last week and a half of practice, he really started figuring things out, figuring out what we need from him, what we want from him. As far as defense goes, defensively, as far as catching, coming off of screens, catching and shooting, what's a good shot, what's not a good shot, when do we want him to shoot, he's starting to figure that stuff out. And again, same thing I said with Kanan, with the whole spring and summer, and then next fall, these guys should be crispy. They should be ready to go.
And one player that was ready to go, and Jalen Johnson, who
Sure.
one of your favorite players on the season, and is a
Sure.
point guard, same as your position playing here and that many years ago here at Frostburg, was, as we mentioned again, multiple weeks on the Bobcast, his first true season as a basketball player here. He didn't get to play a lot last season, led the team in assists. And a big thing that I wanted to bring up, and we talked about this certainly a couple times, is he found his three-point shot late in the season. And I looked back. He only had 2 made threes in the first 9 games overall, but he had at least 1 made three-pointer in his last 7 games that you guys played on the season. So he obviously was running the point for a lot of the season. He's great at getting into the paint, and then the decisions after that is certainly something that you said he just needs to work on a little bit. But another player where just getting him a full spring, summer, fall, and just getting him his work in certainly can benefit him.
Absolutely. Jaden's a kid who he has a motor. Folks that have seen both of us play, they go, "Oh, I know why you like him. He play like you." No, he don't play like me. I was never that quick. I was that fast, never that quick. Handles probably were never that good. But no. All jokes aside, we are trying to we're slowly but surely bringing him along as a point guard. He has some things that you can't teach. He come in here with some and he has some good fundamental. He has a good fundamental foundation. But the IQ thing, the IQ part, the decision making, that's the stuff that we got to work on. The communicating on the floor, the getting guys in place, getting the game at his tempo, knowing when to press up, knowing when to back off. All of those things are things that we're working with him with, and things that he's got to get better at. But as far as his shooting, yeah, we allow him to. He needs to shoot 2 or 3 of them a game. He put in a lot of work as far as from the 3-point line and his pull-up jumper and his overall game. He's put in a lot of work. He's not afraid of hard work. So his progression is steady. It's slow but steady, and we're okay with that because we feel like this off season he'll take a huge leap.
And you can tell just from how his season went on, how much he improved. He is really a willing learner, and he's going to work hard at it. And we can see that as he plays. Another player, and we mentioned earlier that you guys didn't really have a true post presence throughout the season. One player that got close sometimes wasn't always there, and Sean Patterson, who missed the first 2 games of the season. Obviously would have loved to have him for both of those games, and then came back to really a trial by fire against West Liberty and got into foul trouble. Something that he struggled with for a lot of the year. He had 4 fouls in 5 of his first 7 games, but then after that he didn't reach more than 3 fouls in any game after that, which really impressed me. And I know Matt and I made that a talking point kind of this guy Sean Patterson, who he fouls a lot. He's got to control that, and then late in the season he did, and he was able to get more minutes on the floor out of that. Another player who really improved on his threes, he only had 1 3 made in 23 games last year, and he finished 6 for 19 this year, where teams were going to let him shoot it, and often, more times than not, he would knock it down. And also in the post, you could throw it in and he could back in. Even though he's not the most physical guy, he used his size well for him.
Yeah, Sean has improved tremendously, and he's turned into a solid Division II player. We feel like we can play him at the 4 or the 5. Obviously, he's extended that range. Next year, we'll probably play him exclusively at the 4 as a stretch 4. But yeah, man, every year, this is my 3rd year here, and every single year, Sean was a projected starter. He was a starter on paper, but then the very first game of the year, something always happens, and he doesn't play in the first 2 games. It happened the last 3 years, and I've been the head coach the last 3 years. So it's just unfortunate for Sean, and then he got to come back, and then he's got to work back and battle back, and it's tough, man. It's tough, especially going up against these D2 Titans. I mean, you missed 2 games because of injury, and then the 3rd game you come back to against West Liberty, and it's tough. and we're playing him kind of at a stretch four. So he kind of got thrust into the five at the five position because our two big guys that we were going to play there inside, they had issues. So Sean kind of got thrust into that, and he did all he could do, but we we were working with him as a 3 and a 4 all off season, and then he gets thrust back into the center position, and he missed the first 2 games because of injury, and then come back against West Liberty. It was just tough, and as much good I could say about Sean Patterson. I just hope I hope he's not discouraged. I hope he finishes his career really strong next year because yeah, we're going to put him at the stretch four. He's done some things for us. He's put in a lot of work from the three-point line, from the guard's perspective in a whole. He's just got to get more comfortable with the ball in his hands. And, again, this offseason, another offseason should be good for him. But he was another kid who was going to redshirt.
And so, we go in, and I want to kind of lump a couple guys together, not in terms of, they're the same player, they play the same way, but in terms of what they bring to the floor in Bo Sheen and Desmond Renee. And I wrote down that, you can put them on the floor and you just kind of know what you're going to get from both of them. They're very consistent. They played in a lot of big minutes and a lot of big games. I go back to the Notre Dame game here at Bobcat Arena where Desmond knocked down the 2 free throws at the end of the game to essentially win the game for you guys. And, those 2 guys specifically, I refer to them as glue guys where you can put them on the floor. You don't really have to ask them to do anything because you know that they're going to do what you want without you having to tell them.
Yes, Bo and Desmond, those guys are, those guys are I guess you can't call them our glue guys. I mean, we could put Bo in the game at the 2, 3, 4, or 5. Desmond, although he's 5'7", 5'8", we could put him in at 1, 2, and 3, and we can ask those guys to guard all 3 positions. At times they change the tempo. Most of the times they change tempo. They're good at getting the ball to the rim, and good at defending, especially defending in the full court. So those guys were constants for us this year. They played some really big minutes for us and came up in key situations for us down the stretch.
And so another player similar to Sean Patterson who missed the first couple games in Jameel Jones, where, you've called him, I remember the first time I think that he played this season, and we've talked on the Bobcast that you called him about your smartest player that you have on this squad. He always seems to be kind of in the right place at the right time, whether that's an offensive rebound, getting there, or boxing out his guy so another of your players can get a defensive rebound. Mm-hmm. And just he doesn't make very many mistakes at all. And you rarely see him give away sloppy turnovers or miss an assignment on defense. But Jameel, just from a basketball standpoint, he's very stable and smart when he's on the floor.
He really is, and he's a cerebral player. He got size. He has length. Again, I mean, it jumps out at you quickly that he's the smartest player on the court at all times. I wish he wasn't as banged up as he is. He suffers from injuries, some nagging injuries at times. But you're right. He's always in the right place. That's not by happenstance or by mistake. He knows where the ball's gonna go. He can track the ball. He can see plays many seconds ahead, many frames ahead. He's a basketball guy. He has a basketball mind. I'd be surprised if Jameel doesn't coach sometime down the road because he's a basketball mind, and most will be surprised how much he know about this game or how he see the game. He sees the games from a coach's point of view, which is very good as a player. Again, I wish he didn't have some of the minor and nagging injuries that he had. He'd be a really, really, really good player if not for those, being banged up.
And certainly a player who came off of his injury at the beginning of the year and also was in that trial by fire at West Liberty, but he handled that game so well and didn't really make a mistake that entire game, even against such a good pressing team and what West Liberty are. So another two players that this time I do think that they do play very similarly in Justin Bailey and Marcellus Carroll, kind of defensive stoppers and rebounders for this squad. They traded off minutes throughout the season. One would get a start for a few games, and then the other would get a start based on how they played in their team. And, just a couple of strong bodies. Those guys look really strong out there.
Yeah, they're not afraid of the weight room.
Yeah. So, those two, they're not offensively as gifted as certainly some of the other players, but they can get you a key basket when they need to. But what do they bring specifically, defense and rebounding, just tough guys on the interior?
Well, I'll start with Marcellus. Marcellus improved tremendously over the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 games, which was, the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. He started doing some things, a few things differently. Obviously, he's a really strong kid. The younger brother of Maurice Carroll. So these guys are, they're basketball junkies. They're in the weight room. Marcellus, he thinks the game a lot. We want him to play more than think. Okay, we want him to trust his training. That's a term we use a lot. And he started to do that the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and hence he's started to play a lot better and a lot more physical, a lot stronger, and our defensive concepts he's starting to pick up. He's starting to pick up quite a bit. As far as Justin Bailey goes, we really didn't know where to play him. We didn't know if he was a 3, if he was a 4. Then he kind of got thrust into the 4 when we had to move Sean from 4 to 5. But he's really a wing player. We playing him at the 4. He's a fish out of water. But he's worked really hard for us this year. He told us, Coach, I play wherever you need me to play, and we appreciate that. I think he put on 5 to 10 pounds for the team, for the position that he was going to play, and he gets it. He's a kid that gets it. Always academically sound. He transferred in with over 3.3. He had over 3.0 first semester. Right now I think he said he has all A's in all of his classes, nothing lower than a 98. So he's a kid that we know is going to get better. We know he's going to work this spring and this summer. This is going to be a big spring for him. This is going to be a big spring for all these guys. But definitely for Justin Bailey, it's going to be a huge spring for him because we are bringing in not a large group, but we're going to bring in a medium-sized group of recruits. And this will be a big offseason for Justin Bailey because that 3-4 spot we are bringing in. We want to recruit that 3-4 spot. So he's going to have a lot of competition there.
And some of the recruits that you brought in this year, and Jalen Albury, I want to start with him, who comes into the program for the first time. Really didn't play a lot in the early season until the game in Philippi, West Virginia, against Alderson Broadus when you went away, and kind of faded down the stretch in that game. But he came in and he scored at the bucket, 3-4 times, and Matt and I are up in the broadcast of we haven't seen this kid yet, and here he is scoring buckets. And then that got him playing time as the season went on. He was really a spot starter for Jalen at the point position, and he's another kind of a bigger body, certainly, than Jalen at the point position. But what did he show you from his playing time here in his first year?
Well, a few things. Jalen's a kid that we've had our eyes on for years, years. He's very talented kid, quiet. He flew under the radar his whole high school career. Let's put it like this. His freshman year in high school, I think his high school team, the varsity team, won 3 or 4 games. By the time he was a senior, I think they only lost 2 games. And he was the player of the year in that county. So he's flew under the radar his whole career. They won the Nationals. His AAU team won the Nationals in Orlando. Again, flew under the radar. Very talented kid. Very, very talented kid. Deceptive. Really great ball handler. His shot, he definitely has a lot of work he needs to do on his shot. But, the kid can score at the rim. He can hit the 3. He can pull up. He can run a team. We need him to get more vocal. That's one of the things that we're going to work on over the next 2 years. Definitely needs to get more vocal. He needs to get stronger. He needs to get quicker, and he needs to continue to have that confidence grow. Defensively, he's strong enough that he can defend. He could defend a point guard. He could defend a two, but his strength isn't where we needed to be at. But Jalen Albury's a really good player. We think the world of him. He can run a team. He settles us down, and we feel comfortable with him. But yeah, as I said about all of the positions, he's gonna have to get better this spring and this spring and summer, because in the fall we're going to bring in another point guard and someone that's going to push both Jalen's as well as Renee. So yeah, it's going to be a big offseason for him, but we're liking Albury quite a bit.
And so the last player that I wanted to bring up, and I didn't do this intentionally, I swear, but your son, Sean Brown Jr., who is another first year coming into the program, and really didn't get a ton of minutes throughout the season, but he would play in some of the key moments when you guys would be down by a couple points. You need like a defensive stop or a defensive rebound and someone to just bring a little bit of energy off the bench, and really came to life late in the season. I remember I was watching the live stream when you guys went up to South Euclid, Ohio against Notre Dame, and he was playing in those last 10 or so minutes, and I saw him take a three, and he made a three, and I'm like, where's this guy been all year? And he's making the shot, but I could tell from the broadcast that just he knows how to play the game, coming in as a first-year player at a Division II program. But you can just tell that he's not overawed by anything. He's, kind of like you said about some of the other guys, he's not the loudest player, but he's going to bring it every single game that he plays. And obviously, being the son of a head coach that also played, a little bit special there. But what do you see out of Sean Brown Jr. that that can bring to this team for the next few years?
Well, Sean, he's toughness. Sean is tough, and and I'll be straight up. That's the one thing I didn't know. I didn't know if he was going to be tough enough. I figured he's a sponge, so he'd learn the game. His IQ will grow. His skill set obviously will grow. His athleticism has already grown. Folks can see him doing, windmill dunks and cocking it back and touching his back and dunking it and all of that stuff. So I knew all of that, but I didn't. The one thing I couldn't measure, I didn't know how tough he would be. And realistically, he's one of the toughest guys on the team this year. So looking at that, we're looking at the coaching staff about halfway through, we're like, well, we got to play Sean. We need some toughness. He can rebound. He's, I'll go back just a little bit. He was on that national championship team that what I'm talking about with Jalen Albury, and he wasn't the best. Jalen was the best player, but it's not even close. But Sean was like the third or fourth best player on that team, and he was coming, and then so he was on that team, and he lost his whole junior year of high school because he broke his leg, and then his senior year he put up crazy numbers like 24 and 14 or something crazy like that. So he could play. We knew he could score. We know he could shoot the ball. Again, it was a matter of him being able to defend a wing player, and which he definitely needs to get better at. He got chopped up quite a bit, which all of us did, but he got chopped up quite a bit from the wing. But he also gave us some good minutes defensively in some big games where he didn't get chopped up on the wing, where he would stop the ball, and guys wasn't able to go right through him, or he'd get a big rebound or two, So yeah, Sean he surprised us from a toughness standpoint. He earned some minutes. He earned a start there at the end of the season. Played pretty well. So now he's hungry. He's hungry. I mean, their day off. He and Albury was in the gym. I saw Albury in the gym. I saw Brown in the gym. I saw Ajay in the gym. I saw Bartley in the gym. I mean, those are the guys. I mean, they're hungry. You know, they calling and asking for workouts now. When can they get back in the gym? You know, we're going to hold them off for a couple of weeks, but you know these guys are hungry. They want to get in the gym, and that's big for Sean Brown. He likes to be in the gym, but you know I've never seen this kind of hunger in him. He wants to be good. You know, and then now that that switch has flipped now. And then I always say that light turn on for a lot of people. I mean, for everybody at different times. It seems like that light's on for him now, and you know, it's good to see, and you know, I like to see how far that goes, how far that takes him.
And so you talk about hunger. The entire team going to be hungry next year and finally trying to make it into the MEC tournament, maybe even farther than that in terms of how you guys can do. So you got a busy offseason ahead of you, a lot of pieces to fit together, a lot of chemistry to work on, and new players to bring in as always. And so we thank you for the last time for this season on the Bobcast of coming to talk to us every week and thrilling us with some of your tales from behind the scenes that you bring to us.
Well, thank you, man. I want to thank I let you go. I want to thank my wife Jennifer for for so much support and getting me ready every single day and holding me down with the kids and the family. That means a lot. I want to thank Crystal. I thank Coach Stevenson, Troy Dell. I mean those guys and gals showed me a ton of support this year and showed our team a lot of support. Dr. Nowacek always here to support our guys and he's in our corner. You know, very competitive guy from Dr. Nowacek to Mr. Dell to Mr. Stevenson. I mean, those guys want to win, but they keep things in perspective and you know they're here for me and giving me everything I need to be successful. So I do want to I really thank those folks and you know Eric for keeping me in check and a guy that I can always bounce things off of. So you know I want to thank all of those folks. Thank you guys for always supporting us in athletics communications and going on the road and putting in all that time and all that work. You know to help us be successful. We really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank
And
you.
thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
was facing most nights, within her high